No, you can't compare them. You can't compare them. But anyways, welcome back to the vlog. Welcome back to the Tesla. Let's get inside. Welcome back to the Tesla, guys. Welcome. Yeah, so we got quite a lot of stuff in the back of the Tesla. Again, we're taking some stuff to the house, but yes, the Porsche Taycan has finally been revealed. Full pictures, full specs, price points released, all that good stuff. And obviously everybody is comparing it to the Tesla, which, as I started off the vlog saying, no, you can't do that. Yes, technically you can, and that's what we're gonna do today. But I still think on some level you can't. And I'll get to both. More to come. Let's get out of the garage and let's get to it. Let's go sit in traffic, honestly. Go sit in traffic. I'm not looking forward to that. Anyways, let's roll. All right, so obviously Porsche Taycan's out. It looks pretty sweet. So one thing I will say is the Taycan was originally based on what they called the Mission E. That was the concept car that came out a couple years back. And I do like that the final production version, at least the exterior, as far as I remember, looks very similar to the Mission E. And a lot of cars change so much from the concepts, and I always hate that because a lot of times the concepts are very awesome and they should just keep that styling, and I don't really know why they change it. Maybe it's like too complicated or whatever, but either way, Porsche did a great job with this, and I think the car looks fantastic. The headlights look incredible, the lines on the car look awesome, and it's still quite distinct from the Panamera. So very cool stuff. Now, the negatives. All right, so obviously let's just get right to it. So first of all, 0 to 60 time, not as good as the Tesla. The range, not as good as the Tesla. The starting price point, not as good as the Tesla. The performance price point, not as good as the Tesla. The top speed, not as good as the Tesla. Let's see, what other metrics are there? The charging network, not as good as the Tesla. Now the charging speed, there we go, finally. Sorry, one stat, the Porsche technically can charge faster. I believe it can charge up to like 270 kilowatts. The Model 3 does 250 kilowatts, and I think the Model S and X right now do 200 kilowatts. So yes, they do have that. However, there's far and few of those charging points available, is my understanding. I don't even know where you would find one. I know, part of the Electrify America, they're building out that network, and Porsche dealers should have that. Now, another thing is, Porsche does have the sales and service that Tesla does not. Obviously, there is an extensive Porsche dealer network, and well, you obviously get access to that sales, support, servicing of the car, whereas Tesla's kind of slacking in that department at the moment. But from a sheer numbers, just the numbers, 0 to 60, top speed, range, which are like, I feel like three key things when you have like a performance electric vehicle, Tesla is still beating them on all accounts there. Now the interior of the Porsche, I think looks awesome. You're basically getting into what is essentially a Panamera. It's a 4-door sedan. You get all the goodies that come with a Porsche. Very cool stuff. However, you don't get autopilot. Now Tesla is obviously leading the game in EV performance and like range and stuff like that. And then also you get autopilot, so you don't have that with the Porsche. So the way I look at the Porsche Taycan is that the starting price I think is in the 140s, and then if you get, that's for the turbo, and if you get the Turbo S, it's kind of ironic because there's no turbo, it's all electric. If you get the Turbo S, it's like 182,000 starting price, which is crazy expensive. That's obviously much higher than the performance Tesla, which is $100,000. Well, because of the performance stats and the range of the car and the price that they released it at, I don't really see that these two being a comparison. And I know a lot of people are either going to say I'm crazy or that doesn't make sense. The reason I say that, just hear me out, is that people who are in the market for this car are not buying it to have autopilot and all of that stuff. They're probably Porsche enthusiasts, driving enthusiasts, and want to maybe even track the car. I don't know. And they do have better battery cooling technology. That's all part of the performance stats that they were coming out with, like doing a 0 to 124 kilometers, 30 times in a row without any sort of performance degradation, lapping it at the Nürburgring, all that stuff. So my point of not being able to compare them is simply that I think the people that are going to buy the Porsche are not necessarily the same people that are going to buy the Tesla. They want to have that feeling of driving a Porsche. They want to go around corners that are nice and tight, whereas the Model S floats a little bit more. Now, I haven't driven both, so I'm just speaking based on what I've read, but I think that is kind of the key takeaway here. Both cars are still very unique, and I think that the Taycan coming out is a step in the right direction for all electric vehicles in general and the electric vehicle market, and showing that a car company like Porsche can come out with a car that people will hopefully want to buy. I mean, as far as I can tell, they said that all 30,000 units that they have scheduled to release this year have been accounted for. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see if people drop some of those reservations based on the prices that were announced. But either way, I still think it's a very cool car, and I would love to drive one and actually feel the driving difference. If you're a true car enthusiast, I think you can understand that. People drive different cars. Thank you, Tesla. People drive different cars for the experience, and a lot of people say that driving a Tesla is numb and not as exciting. And the Porsche brings some of that feeling back. Makes you feel more connected to the car. It's much tighter all around, stiffer suspension. The seat really hugs you, all that stuff. Whereas the Tesla is truly built to drive itself. It is sort of a numb driving experience to the driver because, well, if you're on autopilot, you're obviously not even driving it. So that wasn't really the goal of Tesla. However, I still think that the Performance Model S is awesome. The performance stats are awesome, and the range is awesome. And if you want to drive that car, I still think it's a blast. Driving my Model S, I love this car. I mean, having the driver's dash with the cockpit, the giant touchscreen, the crazy acceleration, even in this car that's, what, 5 years old now? I absolutely love it. And well, I mean, I test drove the car and I thought it was a blast. Sure, it's definitely not the same as driving a manual gated Ferrari or probably a Porsche Taycan, let alone a Porsche 911, but it is unique in and of itself. And I just think that, like, people are trying to compare things where you don't need to compare them. I mean, sure, you can compare anything, but they're two very different cars and they sort of have different purposes, and I think they both fulfill those purposes. And either way, we're pushing EVs forward, we're pushing performance vehicles forward, and I think it's very exciting. For me personally, I think the biggest takeaway of Porsche coming out with the Taycan finally and releasing all of the stats and price points and all of that stuff is that Tesla is so far ahead of all other EV makers. And the reason I say this is that if you look at the price point, the range, and the performance, as well as just the cars in general, like cargo space you get and all of that stuff, Tesla has been crushing it for years. Elon Musk at their autonomous day still said that not many cars can compete with their 2012 Tesla Model S, which is pretty crazy. But just looking at the Porsche Taycan, if you look at the base Tesla Model S, the long range Tesla Model, not even the performance, that gets 370 miles of range. That's like 100 miles more than the Taycan, and still has similar acceleration to it. It's pretty mind-blowing how it's pretty crazy how efficient. Thanks, Cookie Monster. Okay, thanks, Cookie Monster. Anyways, the efficiency of their batteries and drive units is pretty crazy, and to be able to bring battery production in-house, to be able to have control over that, apparently the costs are low enough where they can still make profit on selling an $80,000 long-range Model S that has much better stats than any other EV car, including the Taycan. It's it is cool to see. I mean, if you look at the P85D that Tesla came out with in 2015, just like the figures on that, performance figures, 0 to 60, quarter mile time, range, it's all still better in some cases, or very close to what the Taycan is putting out. And that was 4 years ago at this point. So I think that that is very cool. Tesla still has a huge lead in the EV space just because of all the time they've been spending on this, all of the R&D that they've put into it. And so a lot of people are saying that these other car companies are going to come out with Tesla killers. But yes, there's going to be other options in the market, which is great. Competition is fantastic, but I think Tesla's still crushing it. And I personally would still choose a Tesla Model S Performance over a Taycan any day. But still, I would love to drive both. I would love to still have a Taycan, don't get me wrong, but if I had to pick one or the other, I would still go Tesla. It just makes more sense to me as far as drivability. I'm never going to track the car, so I don't really care. I'm not going to launch from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour over and over 30 times right away. Like, that doesn't really matter to me. What matters to me is range. I still have a quicker car. I still have a faster car. The top speed is still greater. And well, charging accessibility. Tesla has a supercharging network, and until Electrify America and other charging networks really get built out, I think that Tesla's crushing it on that sense. So that's kind of my takeaway. Yes, you can compare them, but I still think they're very different cars. They're going after different audiences. Yes, you will still have some converts going from one to the other, but it's kind of a different audience potentially. And I think it's more like Panamera owners that were thinking about Teslas might go to this instead because they love Porsche. They're Porsche enthusiasts, and now they can still get that same electric, awesome acceleration and still pretty good range out of a car. So, you know, they're really going after that Porsche driver, the person who wants to really drive their car and enjoy it. And yeah, so it is interesting to see the car industry go this way, and I think it's great on all fronts. So whether or not you're Team Tesla or Team Porsche at this point, I don't think it matters, and I think they're both fantastic cars, and they each have their own quirks. It's kind of like how I would still love to buy a 2004, 2005, 2006 Lamborghini Gallardo with a gated manual transmission that has a gasoline V10 engine that gets like 9 miles per gallon, because it's about the driving experience. It's just a completely different experience, and I think that that's sort of what Porsche was going after. They were going after that Porsche driving enthusiast that wants to see that track performance and repeatable performance and feeling with the car, and not a numb driving experience. So I just think they're different, but different in their own ways and different in awesome ways. So that's my takeaway. Either way, Taycan's finally out. Pretty cool stuff. I think it looks fantastic, and I cannot wait to see one in person. But anyways, if you guys enjoying the content, please consider liking and subscribing. But until next time, thanks for watching.